Welcome to Wisconsin Week. The talk about the Michigan Mafia is going to have to wait for a couple days. That is Bill Landis, Jeremy
Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Not a couple days. Maybe just a little bit, not this
Well,
show.
not in here.
Like 12 hours. Yeah.
In here, they're not going to talk about it. And on Snap Judgments, brought to you by Byers Auto, at least for now, we're going to talk about Wisconsin because that is what's happening Saturday in primetime. Ohio State going to play the Badgers. And Ryan Day and Jim Knowles gave their Tuesday updates. And it's now time to find out what Berm learned.
I think the biggest thing is that this program is on like high alert for a letdown, right? I think that they seem fairly aware of the fact, and people aren't going to let them forget. Hey, the last time you played Penn State, big game like this at home, it was 2017. Then you go to Iowa the next week and get your doors blown off because you had this big emotional win. This type of win needs to be a building block for Ohio State and not a moment to sit there and think and to smell your own, whatever.
Farts.
Right? Because it doesn't matter what you did last Saturday. And Jim Knowles made that point pretty clear in his portion of the press conference on Tuesday, which is, doesn't matter how good they played on Saturday if they go out and take a step back against Wisconsin. So Wisconsin's not the type of team that should challenge you in that way, but I think they are at least philosophically trying to be somewhat in the same vein as Penn State, which is spread them out, but run and have the short passing game and that sort of stuff. But they don't have the athletes that Penn State does, but they do have Braylon Allen. So I think it's just like focused on this game and trying to drown out all the extra noise that people want to talk about, right?
Yeah, I find the conversation odd. Like, if you spend all week saying, well, could be a trap game, don't fall into the trap. Like, we don't keep thinking about Penn State. Like, the more you talk about it, like, that feels like the worse it's going to be. Like, there was a lot of talk, like, hey.
Well, I don't think you talk about it after today. I think you just get into first practice and say, Saturday's over, now it's time to work.
Yeah, but they also practice on Sunday afternoons and they have meetings, and I would have, like, that should already be done for Ohio State in my mind. And then,
but we didn't talk to him on Sunday.
Yeah, I know, but it was the conversation that's like, hey, you haven't had any of these since Iowa and Purdue like 5 or 6 years ago. That's like jinxing it. Like, that's talking about a no-hitter in my mind. Like,
yeah,
just treat it like it's a game, and because that's the only thing they can say. We have to treat this game like every other one.
Yeah, I think it ceases to become a trap game once you talk about it that way. Yeah.
Once you know it's a trap house, and there's a chance for trap music, it's no longer a trap.
Is that?
I don't think they're good.
I don't think
they listen to trap music in Madison, Wisconsin.
I bet they do.
I bet they don't.
I don't even know what that is. I just heard it referenced before.
I bet you don't listen to it.
Have you been to a trap house?
I'm not sure what that is either.
Why did you bring up either of those things? We were just going to keep
saying trap, and I was thinking of all the potential applications for the word trap.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're trying to trap animals. Like, that's maybe the best
way.
They
do that in Wisconsin.
You don't need no stinking badgers.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I don't know that this is like Wisconsin is like a average Big Ten team, I guess. The thing about like the Purdue game and the Iowa game is like those teams had NFL players that like kind of did not sync up all that well with what were some weaknesses of those particular Ohio State teams. Rondell Moore and the tight ends at Iowa, and also JT Barrett lost his mind in the Iowa game, which doesn't help things either. Mm-hmm. I don't know that Wisconsin has Braylon Allen, but I don't know that I'm super worried about teams running the football on this Ohio State defense. And while Wisconsin is well-intentioned about throwing the ball, they're not particularly good at it, and they have a backup quarterback this week. So at least for the defense, it feels like a go take care of business kind of thing. I guess for the offense, there is some stuff to work through against a decent defense on the road at night, loud environment, maybe some weather. Like that side of the ball could perhaps get a little hairy at times, but I don't know. I'm like done worrying about Ohio State's defense.
Wisconsin is number 6 in the Big Ten in scoring offense, number 6 in the Big Ten in scoring defense. Like they are the quintessential middle of the road
replacement level Big Ten team.
Mm-hmm. They can still win the West, right?
They can.
Yeah.
They need help.
It'll require Iowa continuing to Iowa, which now is no longer a good thing for them because they can't win that way. Your point there about figuring out some of the offensive stuff, Bill, I think that's what I was most interested in, looking at the inconsistent part of Kyle McCord's game that comes with being a first-year starter and all that. And like you see the highs of, hey, we're going to throw this bullet into a tight window with 3 defenders around or come back on the road and beat Notre Dame. We've seen him handle high stress moments, and it's been some of the easier throws where those have been the glaring misses for Kyle McCord. So trying to, understand with Ryan Day and and Kyle McCord, like what you can do to work through that. There may not be a direct solution for that. Like that just be, Ryan Day pointed to practice habits and doing it in repetition. So it may be more of a matter of time, certainly rather than ability, because we know that he has got the ability to meet the moment and to make the throws that have to be made. And I think when you're projecting forward, does it have to happen against Wisconsin? Maybe not, but you'd like to see another step forward. And for this offense as a whole, it always is going to start with the quarterback, even though Ryan Day said, well, you got to put up the protection right. You have to get the timing with the wide receivers, and everybody is involved in this. Some of them were fairly straightforward throws that were missed. Mm-hmm. And, how do you find that consistency in a quarterback? And it does seem to just be a matter of more starts, more time, more reps.
Yeah, I think so. This feels normal, I guess.
That's not normal.
Marvin doing the ladder with a big gulp in his hand. We have not had to watch like a quarterback go through, I guess, growing pains, I would call them here. Like we've been all been very fortunate, I think, to watch high level quarterback play and to watch it happen almost instantly. Maybe that's not happened in this case, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing or even out of the ordinary for Kyle McCord. Like going back and rewatching the game, I didn't feel like he was making poor decisions. And like if he were, that is probably not the best thing in the world. I just think it's about like consistency with throwing mechanics and like Ryan Day, so like get your feet and your eyes right and have that be more consistent. I do think that's where Kyle McCord is. If I thought, and I'm just a guy watching football, if I thought he was like doing the wrong stuff, I would say it or I would ask about it. I don't think that's it. I just think it's comfortability. The one thing I do wonder about him is we talk a lot about Ohio State's offensive tackles, their offensive line, and like they've actually been pretty good at pass protection this year. But I feel like at times Kyle is playing like he's expecting to get pressured and like just playing a little fast when the pressure's not necessarily there. And maybe he needs to knock that out of his mind a little bit, and that would lead to some better, more consistent play.
Yeah, but maybe that comes from being a young, inexperienced quarterback and not knowing what the front's going to look like, expecting pressure in an alignment that maybe you normally would get it. I think that you're right on, though. Saturday was the first game this season where I don't think he made one of those throws. You're like, ooh, why are you throwing that ball?
He had one.
Which one was that?
He tried to hit Marv down the seam, and Abdul Carter dropped into coverage and got his hand on the ball and tipped it up in the air. Yeah.
I'm going to credit Abdul Carter on that one.
He's a really good player.
But it wasn't like the rest of the season where he's had a couple balls where you're like, ooh, that should have been picked. Mm-hmm. That was a good play by Abdul Carter to get into coverage and stop a play from being completed. But I don't think it was like a bad, like an interception-worthy throw. He's had those the rest of the season. I don't think he had one of those on Saturday.
I think that's right.
Which is a step in the right direction against the best defense he's faced so far. So I think it's interesting that you brought up, you brought it up to Ryan Day, and the first thing he said was practice habits. I wanted to ask Ryan Day today about McCord and say, following the Maryland game, it was we need to figure out why he gets off to a slow start. Why does the first half look so different? I think that Saturday night you're going to see a kid who should have some confidence, and that's what Ryan Day said. Like he's won 2 really big games this year, and he's played pretty well in both of them, especially in the second half. I think you just get a build on it. Some of that, of course, just comes from having back all of your weapons. And so if Ryan Day and this Ohio State offense can get a Emeka Egbuka back, can get a healthy Travion Henderson, it changes the dynamic of the offense in a major way. When you have a home run hitter out of the backfield, when you have a security blanket like Emeka Egbuka in the slot and allows Marvin to do more Marvin things. Not that he shouldn't still be in the slot because he's impossible to cover in that spot. But I just think some of this is like now you're going on 4 weeks really without your whole offense back. And that doesn't help a young quarterback either.
Yeah, you touched on it, Berm, there with some of the injury updates. So you can take them for whatever they're worth, which may be nothing. But
almost certainly are nothing.
Ohio State believes that all of the big 3 starters that were missing last week will practice this week. Travion Henderson, Emeka Egbuka, and Denzel Burke. My understanding is that Emeka Egbuka has reached the threshold where a normal recovery would allow him to play on Saturday. Travion Henderson, every single week has been a matter of like getting up to game time and then making a final decision. I don't think that the injury can get much better or worse the way that we understand it at this point. So we will see what the week provides for him. I think at this point that Denzel Burke's situation, he probably wouldn't be ready even as he makes a return to practice this week. We will certainly see, and we'll keep our eyes peeled when we're back in here on Wednesday night. But those are injury updates for the starters. When it comes to a backup and someone that Ohio State has been incorporating for the red zone package, Devin Brown, it's going to be a couple weeks for him minimum with that ankle injury. So, Bill, you wanted to try and find out what that would mean for, is it going to be a Wildcat? I wanted to know if it even had to be a quarterback, and Ryan Day alluded to the fact that Xavier Johnson or potentially a healthy Emeka could play that role. But just because Devin Brown is out doesn't necessarily mean that package is dead.
Yeah,
Or does it?
I'm inclined to believe that they will not try it until Devin is back. And Ryan Day, like for the first time ever, put an actual timeline on someone's injury status. He said probably a week or two until Devin gets back.
That makes me think that it's actually worse.
It looks
No,
like
we'll
the
check.
same situation as Emeka Egbuka and Denzel Burke, probably. So just do what you will with that, I guess.
Yeah. I asked if Lincoln Kienholz can do it because we all know he's very athletic, and a lot of people in this building are very high on that kid's future. He's an incredible athlete. He actually is probably the best athlete in the quarterback room. But he's also a true freshman who his football experience was, no offense, played against athletes from South Dakota, not athletes in the Big Ten. I don't know.
Knockoff Wyoming.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and you don't want to be a double knockoff. I don't know if you want to put him in that spot. Maybe when you come back from the road game and you got a couple, and I guess they're on the road against Rutgers. Maybe when you come back home, if Devin Brown is still out, you want to try it there. But I would be a little weary or leery, I guess, of putting Lincoln Kienholz in that spot. So I kind of think they won't do it. What I thought was actually more interesting was Ryan Day being sort of non-committal to the question of who is QB2 at the moment. He said he was going to kind of let it play out this week between Tristan Gebbia, who is in his 7th year of college football, and Lincoln Kienholz, who is in his 3rd month of college football, which is an interesting dynamic.
You know that's just Ryan Day talk to keep.
I don't think it is. I think it would depend on the situation. If
in the first quarter of a
if
game,
you're forced to go to a backup quarterback, depending on how long you would need to go to him, I think the answer changes. That's what I'm saying. I think if something happened, if something happened to Kyle McCord and he had to miss the next 3 weeks, I think Lincoln Kienholz would be the quarterback. If it was for 4 snaps or 2 series, I think Tristan Gebbia.
Finish the game, maybe. I think it's always the age-old question. Who is your backup quarterback in an emergency situation during the game?
Yeah.
Who is your starter next week?
It's a little bit
I think
different.
There are always 2 different answers.
And I don't think that, obviously he doesn't want to answer that question. It's unfortunate that it's played out this way with Devin Brown a little bit because over the last few years we had these questions about why doesn't CJ run? And part of the answer that was never like the verbal answer was if he gets hurt, for God's sakes, we have no one to back him up. Part of the reason you let Devin Brown do this is because you thought, well, he's our backup. If he gets hurt, not great, but it's like, well,
no, but you're right. Like it's maybe there's a more considerate way to have that conversation, but that's the thought process.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Now you're in a position where now Kyle can't afford to get hurt. So now maybe you handle it different. I don't know.
I'm going to go off
Jack
of his...
Sawyer, wears number 33, played quarterback in high school.
Stop putting defensive players on offense.
Jack Sawyer.
Unless it's
Cam Martinez.
We tell these guys to lay off. Leave him alone.
But I'm going to go on Ryan Day's own history and that the experience is going to be the deciding factor. And I'm not just talking about Kyle McCord against Devin Brown. I'm talking about Chris Chuganoff.
Chugs.
Chugs wouldn't have been they had no other option. If Justin Fields would got hurt in 2019, Chris Chuganoff had to be the quarterback because there was no other backup.
Well, come on. They didn't just go into the game with 2 quarterbacks. You could go...
Who was the other
Who
quarterback?
else was on the roster?
Matthew
It
Baldwin?
was Gunnar Hoke.
Gunnar Hoke?
It was Gunnar Hoke and Chris Chuganoff.
I don't know.
So there was no other option.
All right. Maybe you guys are right. I don't know. I think he's going to... I don't buy into the idea that he's legitimately opening the door as Lincoln Kienholz as the backup right now. I'm opening it. That's fine.
It has to be open.
I believe...
If it came down to winning the next 4 weeks with a quarterback, do you think you'd have a better chance with Gebbia or with Kienholz?
Gebbia, because he has been in more high leverage situations. He's won them. He understands the offense at a level that is even beyond Lincoln Kienholz. You cannot get him ready in 1 week. Ryan Day, what you guys are...
I agree.
He just got off the scout team to do this week. He has not taken any reps.
I'm just saying.
Knowing the full offense.
We're on the same page.
You guys think in 1 week that you're going to get him ready without having been through a spring practice or the summer?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I think that
he was here in the summer.
He was here in the summer.
I think unheard of for a true freshman to play.
Also, you're not talking about 1 week. You're talking about, again, this is a hypothetical.
Yeah, it's a pure hypothetical. That's
if something happened to Kyle McCord this week,
I can't believe what's happening here.
If something happened to Kyle McCord this week against Wisconsin, we all agree Tristan Gebbia is the most likely candidate to finish this game against the Badgers.
And if he wins it, then why would you remove him for a true freshman the next week?
Upside, baby.
Have you seen the swag, buddy?
I am
How
not.
many home runs does Tristan Chubby hit?
None of this is questioning his
walk-off
athleticism,
bombs?
his future, anything.
No.
You're trying to. Oh,
No, it'd be Knowles. Anyway, that's irrelevant. It's a moot point.
I'm just trying to rile him up.
We just know how angry you are because you're starving. And so, like, we're just going to keep pulling this away. Let's talk defense. I thought it was really interesting. Going into the Penn State game, we would expect Penn State to be a run-heavy team. They didn't run as much as we thought, thanks to Mike Yurcich. But it was the lowest snap count of the season for Sonny Styles with 24 snaps. And my thought process heading into Wisconsin is that they're going to do a lot of the same formation type stuff Penn State did, but run the ball more with Braylon Allen. And a year ago, we watched Sonny Styles have his sort of coming out game against Wisconsin because they were the 2 tight end Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Now they're not really that philosophy. How much? I've wanted to ask this in a nice way to Jim Knowles a couple times in the last few weeks, but how often is Ohio State allowing their opponent to dictate who's on the field for the defense? And I'm not critiquing the defense you give up.
I'm sure it happens a lot, but I don't. I think it should
was
be
it
that
somewhat
way, no?
interesting?
that is the way it works.
Yeah.
You can't force the offense to sub based on who you have there on defense.
But it was a guy like Sonny. The whole point is putting him in the nickel is that you can do these things. So, like, against Wisconsin's wide receivers may not be as potentially quick or whatever as Penn State's are, but I wonder if you'll see more Sonny, or since Jordan Hancock has certainly earned the reps. Like, how do you break this down? Because I don't think any of us are right now expecting Denzel Burke to be on the field this weekend based on just timelines.
But I guess my take on your question there is that you still have to react to the offensive personnel. Like, that's the way that the game works. And clearly, Ohio State views Jordan Hancock's ability in pass coverage as much superior right now to what Sonny is doing. So that's why they're continuing to make those changes. And it's not impacting the defense because they have 2 guys in the nickel who are both proving equally capable and grading out at a high level and having champion performances that are allowing Ohio State to get through this without it having to just be one guy. So if Wisconsin winds up being just a pure run team, then this week I think the snap count would flip because Jordan would stay out there at corner, which also, is part of his heavy workload, and Sonny would be out there to stop the run the way that he was last year. But I don't think that Ohio State is comfortable now, or at least in a place where they think Sonny can stay out there and do everything at nickel at the level that they want. That's not a knock on him in any way, shape, or form.
What I'm curious about, and you might have broken this down or looked at it, how many of those 24 snaps was Hancock on the field with him? And if last weekend was an opportunity really to see what Sonny would look like in the slot for a game almost full-time against a team like Wisconsin, that they have 1 or 2 outside guys that are decent, but they do not have like a slot receiver type.
I didn't break that down. I think they probably need to find ways to get those 2 on the field together. It's happened, but it's mostly been like when they go, I guess it's like a dime package. Those 2 guys are out there together, and there's only 3 defensive linemen. But that's the only time I think I've seen it. I don't know what it could look. It's easier now because Jordan can play corner with Denzel Burke out. I think it's something they're going to have to figure out as they figure out like the best 11 on defense and who they want to play the most. The problem with like when they play the best 11 is they have like 13 right now who are pretty good and probably deserve playing time. Maybe it's even more than that when you factor in some defensive linemen.
If there are no rules anymore, why don't they just
put them all out there? Yeah. I am inclined to believe that this will be more of a Sonny game. Like Wisconsin does play much more in 11 personnel than they ever did before. They run the ball out of spread sets more than they ever have before, but I still think they're going to want to run the ball. One, because Braylon Allen's like kind of all they have on offense at the moment.
He's got 23 catches. He's got 800 yards rushing.
Yeah. But also, like, they're going to want to keep the ball away from Ohio State's offense. For whatever we think of where the offense is right now, every team they play is going to try to keep them off the field as much as possible by running the ball.
Their 11 is a bigger 11 than Penn State's would be.
Yeah, Penn State played a lot of 12, too.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else that we missed?
Confirmed from Jim Knowles that Jermaine Matthews is a dog.
I knew it. I told you that they X-rayed it.
Yeah.
And they saw it.
Right.
I knew it. I have impeccable sourcing on that.
Yeah.
All right. Berm, anything from you?
No. I'm looking forward to hearing whatever we talk about on Wednesday mornings daily. It should be fun.
Well, everyone wants you to weigh in on it, so you have to.
I have nothing to say.
You have no choice in this matter. They want to know what you feel about it, and so we're going to talk about the Mafia up north, and we're in this latest spying allegations because holy cow,
Farts.
this is bonkers. So this was about Wisconsin. We will be back on the podcast daily to talk about another team in here as we kick off the Wednesday for you all, ahead of a Woody Wednesday with some availability and another version of Snap Judgments that are brought to you by Buyers Auto. If you're looking for a new or used car, choose Buyers Auto. That is Bill, Berm, I'm Austin. We'll talk to you later.